Hi and welcome to my landscape photography channel. Have you ever missed photographic opportunities because you weren't ready or just not prepared enough? I know I have. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 6 tips to make sure that you're ready for any situation that comes your way. And if you follow these steps, you'll be more prepared than most photographers. Modern cameras are incredibly complex, and therein lies the challenge. So have you ever been frustrated by not being able to find a critical menu item to change a setting just at the time when you needed it and missed the shot? So I've used both Canon and Sony cameras over the years, and I can say that neither camera manufacturer actually does a great job of laying out their menus so that they're easy to navigate and understand. So you need to spend time before photo shoots finding out where the critical menu items are, the ones that you use most often, and setting up shortcuts for them if you can. So here's a few that I use all the time, and it's always a work in progress. Delete ones that you're no longer using and set up new ones for menu items that you're accessing a lot of the time. So number one, changing focus mode, and this could be going from center to area to tracking a subject. I'm constantly moving between focus modes, so this is something I set up a shortcut to. Number two, self-timer settings. I'm often using self-timer to put myself in the shot, or even just quickly access a 2-second self-timer so that the camera's steady when it's on a slow shutter speed. Number three, how to change quickly from autofocus to manual focus, and also from auto exposure to manual exposure. Number four, how to use exposure compensation and where the exposure compensation dial is or set in your menus. I use this all the time when I'm using automatic exposure modes. Number five, turning auto review on and off. Very occasionally I want auto review on if I'm needing to check images as they're being shot, but most of the time having auto review on just slows down your shooting process. So I have it switched off by default, but sometimes I need to switch it on, so that's a shortcut menu. Number six, how to use the zoom magnifier. This is used to zoom in on a subject to just double check that you've got critical focus. This is really useful just to be assured that you have nailed a shot. So I've got a shortcut set up for that as well. And number eight, have your histogram visible on the back of the screen and understand how to read it. It's a really valuable tool for analyzing your exposure and just being assured that you've nailed your exposure. If you want to learn more about the histogram, I'll leave a link to a video I've done on it in the description below. And here's a good tip. Take out your camera and any accessories you're going to use the day before a photo shoot and just run through potential scenarios such as tracking a bird in flight or slowing your shutter speed down to capture moving water. Just run through these scenarios with your camera and the settings on it. That way you can be assured that you can find the menu items and that everything's working correctly. This is doubly important for accessories as well. So I always take out all of the accessories I'm going to take, and that could be a flash or a remote release. Plug them into the camera and make sure they're working. You can check the batteries or replace the batteries if need be. I particularly do this on professional shoots. I've got in the habit of doing this every time because the cost of failure is much higher. And in fact, on a recent trip, I made the mistake of not doing this properly and took an accessory that I was hoping to use, which is quite a sophisticated little remote camera release. But I took the wrong cable with me and rendered the accessory useless. But if the day before I had plugged the cable in, I would have quickly seen that it was the wrong cable and problem avoided. So I should have followed my own advice there. One other thing is make sure the date and time are set correctly on your camera. It's really useful for working out where and when a photograph was shot months or years down the track. And for me, I record a GPS track log on my phone, and you can sync GPS track logs to give your images GPS location data. So have you ever had a memory card fill up or a battery go flat on a shoot so you've had to abandon the shoot? I know I have, and it's incredibly frustrating. So here are 8 things that I always have with me or in my camera bag, and in fact they never leave. So number 1, a blower brush and cleaning cloths. It can be incredibly frustrating if your lens is smeary or you've got dust on your sensor and you don't have the means to clean them. Number 2, just small accessories or adapters that you use often. For example, I've got a thread adapter that takes a larger tripod thread down to a smaller or smaller to larger, both of those. Allen key, a micro screwdriver. So just things that I use all the time for my particular setup. Number 3, a small medical kit, just has some headache pills, plasters, some lip balm. I also sometimes take a small container of sunscreen. Number 4, a notebook and pencil. Just find this really useful for jotting ideas down, or if I need to record locations or even just thoughts about what I'm going to do with the photographs. Next, a small roll of cloth tape. Cloth tape is incredibly useful as a repair tool to attach things when you can't attach an accessory to your tripod. Yeah, just incredibly useful to have cloth tape. I also carry a plastic bag. This is just a normal shopping bag with a piece of string. And I've tried lots of raincoats, camera raincoats over the years. Some of them are quite bulky, sophisticated, but in fact a plastic bag with a bit of string works just as well as anything else. So I always carry that, and always carry a cloth, cotton cloth, for drying things when they're wet. And this is actually a Japanese tenugui, or like a handkerchief. It's useful in lots of ways. You can use it as a serviette, a face flannel. Sometimes I use it to keep the sun off the back of my neck. So a little cloth rag can be really handy. I also have a foldable cap for a bit more sun protection, and the cap is actually useful to keep keep a low sun out of your eyes when you're trying to read the back of the camera. Spare batteries. I always at least have one spare battery, because you never know if a shoot's going to go longer than you anticipated, and very frustrating to run out of battery power. Spare memory cards. I always carry at least one. So even if you think you've got plenty of capacity in your camera, carry a spare memory card, because memory cards can become corrupt and that can stymie a shoot. I'd also suggest, rather than deleting images once you've ingested them, reformat the card. They're more likely to be less prone to being corrupted, and also they're just more efficient when you reformat rather than just deleting images all the time. So all of these items are very light and small. They weigh next to nothing, so I keep them in my camera bag all the time. The other thing is, I like to keep them in the same place in the camera bag, so that when you're under pressure you know where to find things, and then put them back in the same place. A good mantra to go by is, don't put down, put away. Then you always know where things are. And here's some optional extras that you might consider. So food and drink. You always make better decisions if you're not thirsty and you're not hungry. Sometimes I might consider carrying a water bladder as well, which is just a bit lighter, and I can fill it as full as I need to for a particular trip. I also carry a polarizing filter a lot of the time. It's just the most useful landscape photography filter. And also a power bank. This can be useful, especially if you need to keep your phone charged while you're out and about. Also, I use it with a dummy battery to power a camera sometimes when I need extended battery power, especially if I'm doing time-lapse. But not always necessary, and power banks weigh a bit as well. So what's a photographic accessory that can record GPS track logs, act as a remote release for your camera and preview images? It's an emergency contact device, and it also, by the way, takes good photo and video. Well, of course, it's your phone. I've found that phones have become incredibly useful as a photographic accessory, and I also use my phone to take B-roll shots and as a secondary camera or backup camera. While it can't compete with a full-frame mirrorless camera, the shots and the video are pretty good. It's also a good audio recorder for behind-the-scenes audio. So what I'm saying is just treat your phone with the respect it deserves because of how useful it is. So I have a good protector on the phone to protect it against impact drops. Also, make sure your phone's fully charged before you go out on a trip, and carry a power bank to boost it up if you need to. So phone, most useful accessory. So lots of photographers worry about scratching the front of their expensive lenses, and the general advice out there is to put on a skylight filter or a UV filter to protect the front of the lens. However, I don't do this. I advise against it. And instead what I advise is to use your lens hood for lens protection. It's actually a lot better than most people think for basic protection against knocks and scratches. The other reason for using a lens hood by default is any light hitting the front of your lens is going to soften your images even if you can't actually see the lens flare. So using a lens hood all the time is going to give you sharper images. The other thing is to get used to using your lens cap as often as you can, or when you're not using the camera, as another way of protecting the front of the lens. And then I'd only put filters on the front of the lens when I'm actually needing to filter the light. For example, a polarizing filter, which I've mentioned before, really useful filter and one I have used a lot for landscape photography. So to sum up, most lenses come with a lens hood and a lens cap. Use them and only use filters on the front of your lens when you need to filter the light. So number 5, if you're serious about photography, I suggest shooting in the RAW file format right from the get-go. Your files will be larger and you will need to post-process your images, but I think it's well worth it. The advantages of shooting in RAW are many. You can adjust white balance, sharpening, color profile, color depth, all after the fact. And you've also got incredible control over recovering highlight detail and shadow detail when you need to, changing all manner of things, lens corrections, and so on. You're also setting yourself up to take advantage of advancements in raw processing engines as time goes on. The other reason is by forcing yourself to actually do editing to finish off your images, you're actually learning to become a better photographer by becoming a better editor, because it's a process of review. As you're editing your images, you'll find mistakes you've made or little things that you could correct, so that next time you're out in the field shooting, you do make adjustments to your camera settings or photograph slightly differently. So becoming a better editor will make you a better photographer. Another reason is the post-processing of an image can make the difference between a competition winner, award-winning photograph and just a average or reject photograph. So it's worth the effort. So number 6, camera defaults. I'm a big fan of this, which is setting up defaults for your camera that you return your camera to every time after a photo shoot. So for example, consider this: you're out on a photo walk, you've been walking for an hour or so, your camera's still in your backpack, you see something come up, like the sun bursts through the clouds, you pull your camera out, set up for a shot, go to take it and realize, oops, you've left your camera on video mode. So in the time that it's takes you to switch from video to photo and get your aperture and your shutter speed right and change the focus, you might have missed the shot. This has happened to me in the past. So now what I do is always return my camera to a set of defaults at the end of a photo shoot or when I'm back from a photo shoot. The idea is so that I can pick up my camera at short notice and it's always photo ready. So there are a number of settings that I have in my default. Your needs might be different, but here are mine. So number 1, RAW file format. I always have my camera set to RAW by default. Number 2, back button focus. So this is separating focus from the shutter button. so that I can control focus separately from exposure. This is an advanced technique, but it's well worth the effort. I've left a link in the description on how to go about doing this and the reasons for doing it. Number 3, autofocus. I set this to center spot tracking because this gives me the best opportunity of getting whatever's in the center in focus. And because I've set it to tracking, I can also focus on something and reframe the camera, but that point will always stay in focus. And even if it moves, it will track it. So that's just the most versatile focusing setup I've got. So that's what I leave on by default. And number 3, I have the camera set to aperture priority auto exposure with auto ISO and minimum shutter speed. Now I've made a video about explaining why I use this system, and I'll put a link to that in the description. And number 5, single shot. So I have the camera set to just take single shot with the press of the shutter button, not bracketing exposures, not rapid fire, because single shot is the most used situation. Number 6, I have camera stabilization and lens stabilization switched on by default. This just gives me the most assurance that I'll get steady shots when I'm hand holding the camera. Number 8, auto review switched to off by default. If you have auto review on, it can slow down your shooting by interrupting the process. So there you have it, 6 simple tips to make sure you're always ready for a great photo opportunity when it presents itself. Know your camera well, have those essential accessories always to hand, treat your phone with the respect it deserves as being the most useful accessory and camera backup. So protect the front of your expensive lenses with lens hoods and lens caps. Shoot RAW for maximum flexibility, and always return to your default camera settings. Because here's the thing, the best camera is the one that's always ready when you need it. So get out there, stay prepared, and capture something amazing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.